you to slightly confuse you to keep you from seeing something. What the fuck they had? That's what you need to be trying to figure out when they tell you that it's all a projection of the mind. We all, God living the reality is me. Okay, if you God living the reality is you, do some God shit in the reality you are in as you. Let me see you do some God shit. I mean, that's all I want to see. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with what you're saying. I'm just, you know, I mean, you said you was God experiencing life as a human. And in order for you to say you God and mean that shit, you have to realize yourself as God, which means you went through an internal alchemical process of development that your central nervous system is built up strong enough now that allow you to download your full God consciousness into this physical 3D matrix, express that shit out to the world and show a motherfucker how to do some God shit. But there's only one problem with that. Can't nobody even tell you what no God shit is, because they ain't never seen nobody do no God shit. So they can tell you God. You can tell yourself you God. But how do you really know what a God is and what if you don't know what a God does? And if you don't know what a God is because you don't know what a God does, then you just making conjecture when you saying you God. Because if you a God, you know what gods do, and you do those things that gods do. So what do the books say? What do the legends say? What do the history say? What do the DNA say? Can you read your DNA yet, God? It's just a mental projection. That's all it is binary code. You can read your computer and your laptop. You can program your computer. Can you program your DNA, God? All it is light. Binary encoded light rays organized into vitamins that are formed into a amino acid, 21 complex amino acids to be exact. That's the building blocks of the DNA. So if you God, you can encode that shit. You can switch some of them ones and zeros around and make yourself have some type of super ability or some shit. You should be able to do something with that. I mean, if you God, you are aware that as a God, you telling me that the periodic table of elements are varying wavelengths of light. You do know that, right? So when you start off with the lightest element with varying rays of light, all you do is you add a different direction, angle, or trajectory of the light, and you will have a different element. But they all got to be encoded with the binary to tell it how to stick together and tell it where to put the Higgs boson so that it know how to build density as it develops. Then you got to also have to encode it, binary encode what they call the strings, so that you can know what isotope, because these have to be specific in a specific manner in order for it to have the right isotope, in order for the atomic weight to match up to what you're trying to create and form. I'm just saying, if you God, this shit is just easy shit. This easy, this child's play, this fucking magnets in the dirt. You know this already. You know this already. You know when they unraveling it, when they talking about the electrons in the observer effect. You the ultimate observer. If you God, then you can change anything you look at just by looking at it, because you're using the observer effect from the God seat, from number 13 position at the center of the zodiac, and the all-seeing eye. And you can see all this shit from each point of the 12 stars of the zodiac. You got this shit wrapped up because you God. And this is all just a projection of your mind. So why you ain't moving shit according to your projection? Don't tell me that bullshit about you being God. You don't even know what your physical body made of, let alone your whole light body. No. You don't even know how the divine mother separated herself in order to create an open space that we call the uterus and y'all call the envelope of creation. Y'all, was you there? I mean, you God, you should be able to remember this shit as a past life memory, where at the very beginning, when she was in herself, creating herself, She had to create her uterus first for she to put you dumbasses in it. Talking about God a man. Yeah, God a man, but he ain't the creator. God is a man over the math. She is the God of creation. She created the mathematician. See, y'all gotta put that shit in its proper order. See, you don't know the difference between the plasma physics and the quantum physics in the electromagnetics. You understand that the electric universe theory and the plasma theory are overlapping theories of the same forces of creation being used in a T-like fashion to produce what you call the vesica Pisces at the very center of the creation, but you God. Was you there? You see, so when they telling you about a cross and you stuck on a man being held 2,000 years ago on a piece of wood called a cross, never knowing that they're telling you about the structure of the creation, and they're going up and down with your electromagnetism, and then they're going across with your vibration of sound wave, and you put the two together. In the middle of it, it produced the vesica Pisces that begin the sacred geometry that begins to bring creation into reality. But it's all a projection of the mind. And the mind encodes the light. And the light sets the frequency. And from the frequency, you get the vibration. And the vibration takes you to the level, stage, and degree. It's simple, but it's complex. But the God mind play with it like it's a toy. You know, play with it like it's a toy. So when they tell you that it's a figment of your imagination that you living in, tell them to take this figment of this 38 and put it in their mouth and bite the bullet. See how their mind can open up a lot of bullet to pass through their ass without hurting them, and then put all that shit back together. Since it's all a projection of the man, you should be able to do that. Since you can understand that it's just a mental projection. It's just something that you seeing and that there's no reality to it. And it's all an illusion. Break that shit if it's an illusion. Show me you can break the illusion. If we all God experiencing life as me. Break the illusion. You can't even get past the legal jargon that tell you, hey, none of this shit ain't real, but I'm gonna act like it is, and you just keep giving me your lifeblood. You couldn't even see past that part, but you God, and this is a mental projection. Why you couldn't project yourself into them law books to find out you was being lied to? Or project yourself into them science books to tell you that they took your history and told you it was science, and they gave it back to you in spoon-fed reverse fashion, so you would never know that that shit is child's play. But you God. That's what you said. But you ain't did no God shit. What do gods do? Can't even tell me what a God do while you telling me you God. You can't even tell me what gods do. You gonna say create. How? With what? From where? What they creating? Where they getting it from? How they putting it together? How they bringing it apart? Is it starting from nothing, creating something? Do you know that nothing is composed of atoms? Because once you get past the atoms, now you're in quantum space, and that's beyond nothing. So create, God. What you creating? What you making? Oh, but in the 3D, we don't create the same. We just manifest. Well, manifest some shit to break the goddamn oppression. Manifest that. Master manifester, then you shouldn't have a problem with manifesting some shit that's going to break the oppression. It's easy. If you're a manifester, if you God, and you just manifest in 3D, you don't create, you manifest. Manifest that with your bad ass. Manifest some God shit in 3D. I want to see it. I want to see it. I mean, like I said, I don't got no problem with you saying that. I'll just be asking the question. Sophia, I went over some past life regression meditations earlier. And so if you watch the video from the beginning, and you'll be able to see some of the ones that I talked about. The 1700s Rothschild bought the United States of America. That is why shortly after we started getting birth certificates and social security cards, because you had property. Teresa, that's incorrect information. First of all, the birth certificates and social security cards is from the 1900s. The Rothschilds didn't buy America in the 1700s. They didn't even start getting into the money into the 1800s. What happened with America was 13 colonies. These colonies were the same as Guantanamo Bay. That was the same thing. It was 13 of them. If you look at who England and everybody that sent them over here, they dumped prisons out, brothels, and religious dissidents. That's who came over here. Anybody they didn't want over there because they didn't want them those types in their country anymore. So they built prison colonies over here in what they call the United States now. This land was our land before they ever came over here with their prison colonies. But some people came with them that looked like us. Now, how do I prove this? If you go with Columbus, the first so-called European over here, he had a navigator named Pietro del Negro. Pietro del Negro was a Masonic Moor. In order to learn navigation at that time, first of all, they only taught navigation to a close-knit community of navigator Moors. That's the first thing you got to understand. Navigation was not taught. Christopher Columbus didn't just get up, buy a boat, and start cruising around. He had to secure the favor of a navigator, or else he was sure to die at sea. They got a whole lot of records of people trying to be their own navigator. So the navigators, like Pietro del Negro, it was one on every ship. So when you go to every ship manifest, every navigator on a slave ship was a Moor. Every one of them was a Moor. Now, the Moors had conquered Spain already, and they had Spain in a high level of civilization with Cordova and the Latin language being written by Moorish priesthoods that actually came from what we call today the region of Libya and Algeria. And these priests were at odds with the Egyptian priesthood. That's what y'all don't understand. They was already at war when they was in Africa. And this is why they undermined Hannibal, because he didn't want the same rogue fashion to rise up in Europe. And we end up where we ended up because somebody at home crossed Hannibal out. Y'all got to go back and look. It's always somebody that look like us that cross us out. Now, from this, America having these 13 penal colonies, and people fail to remember the first winter, they just left them. No food, no clothes, nothing. So we took care of them. The ones that were still living when we located them, we took care of them. We fed them. This is what you call your Thanksgiving ceremony. They were the ones who they called colonists, which were about 80% of them were Irishmen, and the rest was a couple of Norsemen and some Englishmen, but most of them were Irishmen and women that was brought over here. But they were grateful, and the feast was a commemoration. Not until we got conquered. Not until we got conquered did we lose power. Now you got to look at what happened in American history. Those colonies declared themselves separate and independent in the Declaration of Independence from England. That don't got nothing to do with us. We was already here, chilling. High societies over here already. We was already chilling. We was doing our thing over here. Before all of this happened, we was over here for thousands and thousands of years, setting up all kind of societies. Y'all got to pay attention to this. So when the colonists separated, the United States in the document says the United States as a whole is the whole of the 13 colonies. And the 13 colonies under the Declaration of Independence became known as the several states. What states? City-states. They were all independent, but they were going to work together to fend off France and England and Italy and Spain were the powers of the day. So they had to band together, and they made Treaty of Peace and Friendship with Moors, not us, Moors. Now, in order for the Moors to honor the treaty becomes a law between the gods and man. This is why the treaty is the supreme law of the land. And because of what happened in Babylon, they knew that when they made the treaty would be held in place because there was no overriding authority on what they call the 50th galactic seat to override the treaty. So here we go. From there, the Declaration of Independence produced the first constitution called, it was the Constitution of the Commonwealth. And they also call it the Continental Constitution of the Continental Congress and various names like that. But that's the original Constitution. And it finally ended up being in final draft form, your Articles of Confederation. Notice the word confederation there. Now, the word confederation was English word used to refer to the groups of alliances made across the land between groups of native tribes, and they were known collectively as the 12 nations, which was the 12 regions of North America from Canada to southern Mexico. It was divided into 12 regions, and the 12 regions had a council of elders set up to represent each region as a tribal chieftain. So when the Moors signed the treaty, it caused them to have to protect the colonies from England, France, Spain, and I think it was Italy at the time was the superpowers. The Moors had to protect the 13 colonies. So what did they do? They told the colonies to spread out among the people, in the 12 territories. Where is this recorded in the history book? It's called the Lewis and Clark Expedition. Bay was the one, they call him Benjamin Banneker, who was the guide. Well, Lewis and Clark was some fucking buffoons. They was idiots. They couldn't read and write. So everything that you reading as Lewis and Clark's expedition is the writings of Bay. He knew how to write. He had to teach them. He knew how to talk to everybody across this land. The sellout is obvious. It's no secret. It's right on the dollar bill, the contract. The contract was a protectorate treaty. It was an agreement to protect the people of the land, the colonists. The Moors made that agreement, but we was already here. And so we lost the war. France sold us out. So the French were looking for Scotta from Scotland, the red-haired princess. And this is the big deal with Sacagawea and Pocahontas, because they took both of them to Europe thinking they had found her, the red-haired princess who would give birth. But they was about 300 years too early. They was chasing Scotta, who was supposed to reincarnate on this side of the ocean as the bloodline of the Holy Grail. They was chasing Scotta. And they seen these auburn red hair native girls where the sun had bleached their hair red, and they assumed that these were the remnant of the bloodline of the Holy Grail, or the Holy Red the holy bloodline of Scotta, the red-haired princess. Now, the legend is in the South. In the South, Scotta is known as Maman Brigitte. In Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, like that. Maman Brigitte is an Irish female, red-haired Irish woman over here in America in the voodoo culture. She comes up as the wife of Baron Samedi, which is my Loa. And as